May 23, 1941. North Atlantic, 500 miles west of Ireland. The wind howls like a banshee across the heaving deck of HMS Bulldog, a weathered Flower-class corvette slicing through the black swells. Salt spray stings the faces of the crew as they huddle in the wheelhouse, the dim glow of radar screens flickering like distant lightning. Commander Frederick John Walker, his duffel coat soaked and eyes narrowed against the gale, grips the voice tube. Full ahead, both engines. Signal the convoy, Titan formation. They're out there. You can almost feel the thrum of the diesel engines vibrating through your boots, the ship pitching violently as another rogue wave crashes over the bow. In the convoy behind, 42 merchant vessels, laden with tanks, fuel and food from America, plod onward like reluctant elephants, their silhouettes barely visible in the pitch darkness enforced by blackout orders. This is HX-126, the lifeline of the British Isles, and tonight, its prey. German U-boats, those steel sharks of the Kriegsmarine, prowl unseen beneath the surface, their wolfpacks coordinated by encrypted radio signals from Admiral Karl Donit's headquarters in France. One torpedo hit and the fragile chain could snap. Walker paces the bridge, his breath fogging the glass. He's no stranger to this cat-and-mouse game. At 47, with a face etched by years of convoy escort duty, he knows the odds. Earlier that evening, a faint blip on the Type 271 radar had vanished, a U-boat diving deep. Now the hydrophones pick up the eerie ping of screws turning in the depths. Depth charges ready, number 1, Walker barks to his first officer, Lieutenant Commander Arthur Coward. The crew scrambles, hauling wet ammunition to the launchers, fingers numb from the 40-degree chill. In the radio room below, sparks crackle as operators strain to decode fragments of enemy chatter, but it's gibberish, locked behind the Enigma machine's impenetrable veil. Far from the roaring Atlantic in the Buckinghamshire countryside, another battle rages in silence. Bletchley Park, a sprawling Victorian mansion turned wartime hive, buzzes under the cover of night. Floodlights are banned, only the glow from Hut 8 leaks through blackout curtains. Inside, a lanky mathematician named Alan Turing hunches over a desk cluttered with graph paper and tea-stained mugs. It's past midnight and his team, a motley crew of linguists, chess champions and Oxford dons, pores over intercepts from the Y-service radio stations. The air smells of ink, cigarette smoke and desperation. Enigma, the Nazi cipher device with its rotating wheels and plug board, churns out 159 quintillion possible settings daily. By hand, it's impossible. Even the Polish cryptanalyst who first cracked an earlier version in 1939 couldn't keep up with the Germans' upgrades. Turing, 29 and already whispered about as eccentric, his bicycle clips on backward, his sudden disappearances to feed the ducks, paces with a slide rule in hand. "We need a machine," he mutters to his colleague, Gordon Welchman, a signals intelligence officer with a mustache like a wartime poster. Not polishers or bombs in theory, a real one sifting the chaff. The Poles had smuggled out replica Enigma machines in 1939, but the war's pace demands automation. Turing's mind, a whirlwind of algorithms and probability, has been grinding on this for months. His madness, as some colleagues call his obsessive focus, borders on the unhinged. He once proposed using a giant sieve of perforated sheets to test settings, but now it's evolving into something mechanical, electromechanical, the bomb. Back at sea the tension snaps. A lookout shouts from the crow's nest, "Torpedo wake, starboard bow." Walker doesn't hesitate. Hard A port. Fire 1 and 2. The K-guns hurl depth charges into the foam, explosions blooming like underwater thunderclaps. The sea erupts in white fury, and for a heartbeat, silence falls, broken by the agonized groan of a U-boat hull buckling under pressure. U-556 surfaces briefly, its conning tower awash, before a British destroyer finishes it with gunfire. Cheers erupt on Bulldog's deck, but Walker knows it's Pyrrhic. More wolves lurk. Without knowing their positions, convoys like this one bleed the Allies dry. By dawn, 3 merchants are lost, their crews adrift in oil-slicked waters. In Bletchley, Turing sketches furiously by lamplight, the first blueprints for the bomb taking shape, a row of Enigma drums whirring in synchrony, driven by a clockwork motor to test cribs against intercepted messages. It's not ready yet, but the spark is lit. If it works, the Atlantic's shadows will lift, revealing the hunters before they strike. The lamplight in Hut 8 flickers as Turing's pencil scratches across the paper, lines converging into a diagram of interlocking drums and relays. Outside, the English night deepens, punctuated by the distant rumble of a supply truck rumbling up the gravel drive to Bletchley Park. It's late May 1941, and the mansion's grounds, once manicured lawns for Edwardian teas, now teem with hastily erected wooden huts, their roofs camouflaged with netting to evade Luftwaffe reconnaissance. Guards patrol the perimeter, rifles slung, while Wren telegraphists cycle in shifts, their skirts hiked against the mud, delivering fresh Enigma intercepts bundled in wax-sealed envelopes. You sense the weight of secrecy here, thicker than the fog rolling in from the Chiltern Hills. No uniforms in the huts, Just civilians in tweed jackets and cardigans, their faces pale from long hours under artificial light. Turing straightens, rubbing his eyes behind his round spectacles, and turns to Welchman. "It's not enough to mimic Enigma," he says, his voice clipped with that Cambridge precision. "We need it to hunt. A bomb that chains multiple machines together, testing menus of possibilities faster than any human." Welchman nods, lighting another Woodbine cigarette, the smoke curling toward the rafters. He's seen Turing's earlier designs, the Victoria bomb, inspired by the Polish Bomba cryptologiczna, but this evolution promises scale. 26 drums per unit, wired to simulate the cipher's plugboard and rotors, driven by a three-phase electric motor humming like a distant beehive. By dawn the team expands. Peter Hilton, a young mathematician fresh from Oxford, joins the huddle, his fingers stained with ink from transcribing German naval signals. "The cribs are key," Turing explains, pinning a sample intercept to the wall, a routine U-boat weather report, its letters jumbled into nonsense, WXYZ. They know from Polish exiles like Marian Rejewski that certain phrases repeat predictably. Insert a crib like wetter against the ciphertext, and the bomb could detect contradictions, narrowing billions of wheel settings to a handful. But building it? That's another war. Resources are rationed, copper wire diverted from radar sets, bakelite from bomb factories. Turing cycles to the estate's old stable blocks, now workshops, where engineers from the British tabulating machine company toil under blackout lamps. June bleeds into July, the summer heat turning the huts into saunas. In a corner of Hut 11 the prototype stirs to life. Sparks fly as Harold Doc Keane, a wiry electrician with grease-blackened hands, connects the final relay. The machine stands chest-high, a Frankenstein's contraption of steel frames and whirring wheels, its panels etched with cryptic labels, scrambler, reflector. Turing flips the switch and the motor coughs to life, drums rotating in eerie synchrony, tick-tick-tick, like a dozen Enigma keys depressed at once. The air fills with the scent of hot oil and ozone. "Run the menu," Turing commands, feeding in a crib from a recent U-boat signal captured off Iceland. Lights blink across the board, false trails extinguish in red, while a promising path glows green. It takes minutes, not days, a breakthrough but glitchy. One drum jams, halting the chain, another overheats, melting a wire. Frustration mounts. Turing, ever the perfectionist, paces circuits around the bomb, muttering about Turing machines and computability, concepts from his pre-war papers that baffle even his colleagues. "It's mad," whispers Joan Clark, the only woman in the hut, a brilliant cryptanalyst with a knack for patterns as she solders a replacement fuse. She's engaged to Turing, or so the rumor goes, though his awkward proposal involved a ring hidden in a chocolate bar. But madness fuels genius here. Without it, the Enigma would remain unbroken. Across the park, in Hut 6, Dilwyn Knox deciphers Italian diplomatic traffic by hand, but the naval keys M4 with its extra rotor, mock them. Donut's U-boats sink 400,000 tons of shipping in June alone, their positions invisible, radioed in three-part codes that shift daily at midnight. Walker, back on the Atlantic, feels the pinch. After HX-126 limps into Liverpool, scarred but intact, he debriefs in a smoky Admiralty office, maps pinned with red pins marking losses. "We need eyes in the deep," he tells his superiors, voice hoarse from shouting orders into gales. Intelligence trickles in vague warnings from sources, but not enough. Unbeknownst to him, those sources are Bletchley's ghosts, wrestling the bomb into reliability. By August, a second prototype arrives, refined, faster motors, improved cribbing logic. Turing tests it relentlessly, running mock decrypts until the early hours. One night, as thunder rumbles over the park, the machine cracks a full message. Coordinates for a wolfpack assembling east of Greenland. Ultra, they call the intelligence, top secret, eyes only for Churchill himself. The breakthrough ripples outward, but not yet to the seas. In Bletchley, exhaustion claims victims. A codebreaker collapses from overwork, carted off to the sanatorium. Turing retreats to his quarters, a Spartan room in the mansion's east wing, where he types furiously on his typewriter, not code, but a treatise on morphogenesis, snails, and universal machines. Yet the war pulls him back. With the bomb viable, production ramps. Contracts to Letchworth factories disguised as bomb clocks for misdirection. 20 machines by year's end, each a silent sentinel against the cipher's fortress. The shadows lengthen, but cracks appear. The first hints that the U-boat's invincibility is fracturing. September 1941. Bletchley Park, Buckinghamshire. Dawn creeps over the dew-kissed grounds, casting long shadows from the anti-aircraft guns silhouetted against the fading stars. In Hut 8, the air hums with the low whine of newly arrived bombs, 3 of them now, lined up like impatient racehorses in their wooden stalls, cables snaking across the floor to a central power board. Alan Turing wipes sweat from his brow with a handkerchief, the room's heat amplified by the machine's relentless churn. "Steady on," he calls to the operators, a team of wrens in crisp uniforms, their fingers flying over patch panels as they load fresh cribs. One bomb, dubbed Victory, ticks through a menu of 336 possible wheel orders, its drums clicking like telegraph keys in a frenzy, testing, rejecting, illuminating paths through the Enigma's labyrinth. You can hear the rhythm building, a mechanical heartbeat echoing the pulse of the war. The intercepts pile up on Turing's desk, flimsy strips from Chicksands radio station, capturing U-boat pings from the Grand Banks, Wolfpack Hecht forming, coordinates encrypted in the M4 naval key. Joan Clark leans in, her voice steady amid the whir. Try crib Augustus. It's a standard reporting phrase. The machine obliges, relays snapping like distant gunfire. Red lights flare and die, then a cluster of greens aligns. The bomb halts, a bell dinging softly, solution found. Turing transcribes the settings. Rotor order 64I, Ringstellung May 17, 11, plugboard swaps. Within minutes, a typewriter clatters out plaintext. U-67 and U-501 positioning for ambush, 200 miles south of Iceland. The decrypted message, dubbed Ultra, in the hushed corridors, races by motorcycle courier to the Admiralty in Whitehall. There, in a vaulted war room lit by shaded lamps, Commodore Roger Wynne pores over the charts, his pipe clenched between teeth. Donitz is blind to us now, he murmurs to his deputy, the maps blooming with fresh blue lines, safe routes for the next convoy, SC-42, already battered by storms. Wynne, a one-legged veteran with a mind like a filing cabinet, cross-references the intelligence. Avoid grid square AM-59 where the wolfpack lurks. No more guessing. Ultra turns the hunters into the hunted. By noon, orders wire out to the Western Approaches Command, reroute the convoy northward, hugging the ice edge. Out on the Atlantic, the shift feels like a ghost's breath. October 1941. Convoy on 23 steams west from Liverpool, 22 ships strong, their wakes foaming under a leaden sky. Commander Walker, transferred to HMS Stork for this escort group, scans the horizon from the bridge, binoculars pressed to his eyes. The sea is a millpond today, deceptive calm masking the peril. His ASTIC operator, Petty Officer Davies, calls out, "Contact, bearing 220, range 5,000 yards, submerged." But this time it's not blind luck. Earlier that morning, a decoded signal pinpointed U-67's patrol line. Walker's orders came encrypted but clear: engage at will, support from Audacity. The baby flat-top, HMS Audacity, carrier swordfish biplanes that lift off with a roar, their fabric wings straining against the wind. The biplane's pilot, Lieutenant Commander Eugene Esmond, banks low over the swells, eyes fixed on the depth charge racks. Below, Stork zigzags, pinging relentlessly. The U-boat surfaces in panic, firing flak that peppers the sky like black hail. Esmond dives, releasing his payload, explosions plume upward, shearing the conning tower. U-67 lists, oil gushing like blood from a wound. Cheers crackle over the radio as the sub slips under, 44 Germans lost to the deep. Walker exhales, the knot in his chest loosening for the first time in months. On 23 presses on unscathed, its cargo, 100,000 tons of war material, destined for the fight in North Africa. Ultra's whispers have saved it and dozens more like it. Back at Bletchley, the victory is bittersweet. Turing watches as the bombs multiply, 10 by November, scattered to outstations like Eastcote and Scarborough to evade bombing. But the Germans adapt. A new fourth rotor in February 1942 will challenge them anew, but for now, the flow of intelligence surges. In Hut 4, naval experts like Frank Birch dissect the decrypts, plotting U-boat grids on vast wall charts that shift like living organisms. They're rerouting too, Birch notes one evening, chalk in hand as a wren brings tea. Donitz smells a rat, radio silence orders tightening. Turing, overhearing from the doorway, nods grimly. His madness, the relentless iteration, the sleepless nights refining bomb logic with Bayesian probabilities, pays off, but at a cost. Colleagues notice his pallor, the way he startles at sudden noises, haunted perhaps by the lives hanging on each decryption. The impact cascades. By December, sinkings plummet. Wolfpacks, once devouring 50 ships a month, claim half that. Churchill, briefed in the cabinet war rooms beneath Whitehall, pounds the table. The U-boat peril is past, he declares, though privately he knows Ultra's fragility, one leak and the cipher changes. Walker, docking in Derry after another escort, toasts his crew in the officers' mess, pints foaming. To the shadows that light our way, he says, unaware of the codebreaker's toil. In Bletchley, Turing steps outside for air, the winter frost crunching underfoot. A fox darts across the lawn, and he smiles faintly, nature's own enigma, solvable in time. The bombs were on, sifting the chaos, dooming the wolves one decrypt at a time. But the war's tide turns slowly, greater storms brew as 1942 dawns, with Donitz packs regrouping for a fiercer assault. January 1942. Western Approaches Command, Liverpool docks. Fog shrouds the Mersey like a funeral veil as convoy on 52 assembles, its 30 hulls creaking against the piers, Liberty ships fresh from American yards, bellies full of Lend-Lease jeeps and aviation fuel. Commander Walker strides the quayside, clipboard in hand, briefing his escort captains under the harsh glare of arc lamps. The air reeks of coal smoke and tar, mingled with the tang of the incoming tide. Ultra says the packs are massing in the mid-Atlantic gap, he says, voice low, tapping a grease pencil mark on the chart. We thread the needle, south-southwest, then hard north at 45 west. His officers nod, faces gaunt from winter patrols. The gap, that 600-mile blind spot beyond air cover, has been a graveyard, but now intelligence paints it in safer hues. You feel the urgency in the gangways, sailors hauling mooring lines with grunts and curses, the klaxon wailing as tugs nudge the convoy into line. Walker's group, 4 destroyers and 2 corvettes, including his HMS Blankney, fans out, Aztec domes dipping into the murk. At sea by dusk, the formation steams at 8 knots, zigzagging under a convoy Commodore's signal flags snapping in the wind. Radio silence grips the fleet, broken only by urgent W/T bursts. Position report, all clear. But beneath it all, the decrypts flow from Bletchley, relayed via secure teleprinter links disguised as commercial traffic. In Hut 8, Turing oversees the bomb runs, his team now swelled to 50, the machines were a constant underscore. A fresh intercept from U-552 crackles in, patrol orders for Operation Drumbeat, donuts push against you, coastal shipping. The crib, refueling, slots in, drums spin and out pours the grid, BD-47 fuel rendezvous with Milchku supply subs. The reroute saves on 52. As the Wolfpack, group landward, 7 boats strong, surges east from Newfoundland, the convoy slips north, hugging the edge of Canadian air patrols. Walker's lookouts spot nothing but gulls wheeling overhead. Days later, the Germans radio frustration. Convoy evaded, possible betrayal. In Berlin, Donitz fumes in his Loria bunker, maps littered with cigarette butts, demanding more Enigma traffic to tighten the net. But Bletchley's net tightens faster. By February, 17 bombs operate around the clock, each processing 100 menus per hour. Joan Clark, promoted to junior assistant, patches in a complex crib from a U-boat sighting report, her hands steady despite the chill seeping through the hut's thin walls. Got it, rotor start positions, she announces, and Turing verifies the decrypt on his own Enigma replica, the keys clicking under his fingers. The counteroffensive builds. March 1942. Off the Azores, HMS Harvester shadows convoy HG-76, its swordfish spotters aloft. Ultra pinpoints U-202's position from a routine weather cipher, cracked that morning in Scarborough's outstation. The sub, commanded by Captain Lieutenant Hans-Heinz Linder, lurks at periscope depth, lining up a shot on a straggling tanker. But Harvester's captain, already alerted, maneuvers sharply, depth charges arcing into the sea like plummeting meteors. The blasts rock the ocean, hydrophones capturing the sub's propellers racing in panic. Linder surfaces to fight, his 88mm gun barking shells that whistle past the destroyer's mast. A lucky hit from Harvester's 4.7 inchers rakes the deck, flames erupting from the conning tower. U-202 rolls over, stern high, before vanishing in a vortex of bubbles, 46 survivors plucked from the oil slick, their faces ashen as they climb aboard. Bletchley celebrates quietly, no fanfare, just a nod across the T-trolley. Turing, ever detached, adjusts a bomb's timing gear, muttering about entropy and information theory, his mind already leaping to post-war computers. But the strain shows, a wren faints during a night shift, revived with smelling salts. Welchman pushes for more resources, lobbying MI6 for additional engineers. The Germans, sensing slippage, introduce the 4-rotor Enigma in U-boats by mid-February, Shark Key, they call it, scrambling the cribs anew. Bombs falter, decrypts drying up for weeks. Panic ripples to the Admiralty. Convoys like PQ-12 to Murmansk suffer, U-boats claiming 4 merchants in icy Arctic waters. Walker, escorting a slower group, loses HMS Harvester to U-432 in March, ironies bite, as the decrypts that saved others come too late for his own. Adaptation becomes the new battle. Turing dives in, redesigning the bomb menu for the extra rotor, longer chains, more power-hungry runs. By April, prototypes test in Hut 11, sparks flying as relays overload. It's like wrestling a hydra, Hilton quips, wiping oil from his spectacles. Success comes in May, a breakthrough crib from a captured U-boat handbook, smuggled via SOE agents in Norway. The enhanced bombs crack Shark sporadically, enough to resume ultra flow. Donitz packs, once invincible, fracture. U-576 torpedoes AU. Tanker off North Carolina but is hunted down by a blimp and destroyer, sunk with all hands, revenge served cold. The Atlantic lifeline holds. By late spring 1942, sinkings drop to 300,000 tons monthly, half the peak. Churchill cables Roosevelt, the bottleneck is broken. Walker, commanding from a new ship, HMS Starling, leads the first hunter-killer group, ultra-guided wolf hunts, not just escorts. In June off Portugal they bag U-202 sister U-68, depth charges and hedgehogs turning the sea to froth. Crews cheer from the rails, the once endless losses reversing. In Bletchley, Turing steps into the spring sun, the mansion's clock tower chiming. The madness, his unyielding logic amid chaos, has doomed the U-boats, securing the sea lanes for D-Day's distant thunder. Yet secrecy binds it all. No medals, no parades, just the quiet knowledge that billions sifted yielded victory from shadows.